Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. Today, let's get started on fixing the subwing on the Fokker D.VII. Alright, so for all of you who have watched episode 1 and everything we're going to have to do to try to straighten stuff out, the subwing itself, the main portion of it, was actually fairly well built. What I did is I came back in and put new rib caps on the top. So I popped all those off, put new ones on there. So everything is leveled out and looking good. The main issue is the end caps, if you want to call them end caps. Yeah, very, very poorly done. You can see, yeah, this is just wrong. The only good piece out of this whole thing, because you can see the gaps that were in there, the only good piece that's in here is pretty much just the roots. So I'm going to go ahead and get these things all cut apart. I've got the plans down here on the side, and I'm going to have to figure out how I care to make a I'll probably just go ahead and make the ribs, because I got to have an exterior. I'll just trace on the outside of the root rib, and that's how I'm going to make the outside, because it's going to be cut apart anyway. But yeah, this is just, yeah, unacceptable is not a big enough word. Just go ahead and grab yourself a snack, something good to drink, and kick your feet up, and let's get her done. All right, I had to do a little rearranging just to try to figure out how I want to do this. Most of my building goes, I do it on top of ceiling tiles, because you turn them upside down and you've got a really good surface for push pins and thumbtacks. Unfortunately, I don't have any more, so instead of breaking down, because my workbench, I can shrink it down by a foot, because I normally work on with the big planes. I've got these extensions that I built and put on it. Normally, if it's a little teeny plane, well, little in my world, if it's like a 40 size plane or a 60 size plane, when I'm building, I'll normally do it on just the shortened, so it's pretty much about 2/3 the size that it is right now on the shortened side. Anyway, I digress. Let me show you where we're at. All right, this pile of stuff was pretty much everything that it used to be. What I did, when I took them apart, I realized we already knew that this piece here, he had to go ahead and pretty much just sister in a piece of plywood, because he broke the front. And on this side, I didn't notice it until I took it apart. I was still kind of hoping to use these. I probably could have got away with this one, but this one had a split in it that went diagonally, not across. And it's probably strong enough to work, but when it came down to the fact that he drilled one hole in the wrong spot and had to over drill it, and it was loose and sloppy, I said, let's just go ahead and take those two and make two brand new ones. So these are the root ribs, and then what I did is, of course, I marked them. That's the right side root rib, and then the piece that's going to go on the outside. So it's just not the root rib, but we'll call it the end rib, which is made out of 3/32 balsa. What I did is I came on in and I matched these. Before I drilled anything, I matched these up to this side. So here's the right side, and the right side lines up perfectly with the holes. And then I drilled the holes, yeah, in the end rib, or the most outer rib, off of these. So now I know I've at least got everything drilled in line, so nothing will have to be hogged out to try to make it fit. So, and I will show you the plans as soon as I get everything else reset up again. The lines drawn on this is that's where they're going to get cut. This center section is completely removed. You have a, excuse me, a forward part of the rib and a tail part of the rib. And then this part back here is going to have and be, it'll terminate here forward. And then where we have, I'm going to call it the anti-rotation mount. And I'll explain that in a second. I mean, I can just go ahead and just come on in, and it's probably how I'll do it. and cut it. The only problem with cutting it, and I have to work on that one, I gotta make sure it's going to be in the right spot, because as you can see, it's hitting the hole. So I need to find out what the full deal is with these. Unfortunately, the side image on the plans is not 100% what I would have liked to have seen, because looking at it, you got a pretty good idea on where everything is, but when you look at the picture, let me get the other camera. All right, this is where this piece is going to go, and it's set in. I've got to cut some, and I do have all the other balsa, the slabs over here. The ones that I've already got set up, I'm going to need parts out of, because we've got the inner leading edge, which is 1/4 inch, and that is this right here. And then of course, then I've got the leading edge, which is 3/8, and that will probably come from my big thick blocks, because I don't have any leading edge material, but if not, I can make something. So this piece will go right in here, such as this right there. But when we slide this up, that's not exactly where they, I mean, it's pretty close to where they said to put the hole. I guess we're gonna have to call it, that's pretty darn close. Sorry about me dancing around here. Yeah, that'll still work. They have the holes line up, they have the holes higher up than here. This will still work, because I don't want to have to come in and punch all these things out, because it's going up such a slight amount. I would have to make all new end ribs on these sides too. So what I'll do, because this block is a block that sits right here, and because it sits lower, because this goes all the way, I'm going to have to verify this one. Yeah, something's not jiving there. I'll have to look at that. Yeah, because that makes no sense. Wow. All right. See, this is how your brain has to work around this stuff. This would have to be almost shaved down to fit where they want it to fit, because it sits high. Regardless, I'm going to have to try to figure this one out. You know, sometimes when you think something's easy, it's really not. And that's where knowing how to read plans and try to figure out what's going on with it, because I've built off plans that were drawn wrong before, and you have to figure it out before you start gluing pieces together. So once again, let me check this out and I'll be right back. All right, the problem is not as complex as I thought it was going to be with moving. I'm still not 100% sure. But you know, it's a guy thing. We have a hard time with instructions. I was just going off the plans, and I decided that when I couldn't understand that, let me open up the book. So anyway, let me see if I can show you what it looks like. Okay, hopefully everything is properly in focus, and I'm hoping. All right, this is the picture we're looking at. Step 9. Okay, the way it's set up, here's the block. So that's like the anti-rotation block that's going to be a piece of wire coming off the axle, and that's going to hold this thing at the proper angle of attack for the subwing. So simple enough. This piece, that block that little kind of angle piece, the wire sits flush with the bottom, which that's common sense. It's going to have to, the way it's set up. So this piece, this piece, and this piece, and this piece is all 1/32 balsa. So this will sit flush, this will come up around the outside of it, and then this is that rib where I've got to cut the section out. So hopefully, and I still think it's gonna hit, which means I'm just gonna go ahead and just cut a little channel through there, just to so I can leave everything else the way it is. So it's not gonna be that big of a deal. All right, didn't forget about you. It's been a little over 3 hours just for me to get all the parts for the Subwing, just for the end pieces, cut up, and there were mistakes made, and I had to, before anything started getting glued, I had to make sure everything was properly cut out, so that way everything was going to go together nicely. So let me go ahead. I've got 1/2 almost done. I just haven't sheeted it, the top of it. Everything else is done on it. and that was just my test piece. I wanted to have that all taken care of before I brought you guys back, just to show you where we're at. So let me go ahead and grab the other camera and show you where we're at. All right, let me show you the parts needed first. The necessary parts, 14 of them. All right, so on the bottom, and like I said, it took me a while to figure this one out. Had to go through, so here's the bottom sheeting. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and this is the gap where the landing gear is going to come on down through. So everything is all set up. I've got my inner ribs, and it's split. It's a split rib. Yeah, this is the fun part about it. So that is all taken care of. I had to make 2 of these rear end pieces because I cut them wrong the first time, which was okay. It was real easy to do. That, and then I had to make these new pieces. Had to do it once, which was no big deal. And then this little piece up here, just because this side is slightly different than this side lengthwise, I had to go ahead and recut another one. That took me about, a minute, just so I can extend it farther forward. So let me go ahead and show you where everything is at on this side. So here's the sheeting that's going to go on the outside, and I had some 4-inch. I like buying 4-inch planks, but the last time I had to buy some, they were completely out. So luckily I have a couple pieces of 4-inch, so I just went ahead and ripped it. So instead of having 2 and then a 1-inch piece, 2 4-inch pieces overlaps it, and then I'll just trim it in behind this piece up here, drop it down inside, and then we'll go ahead and start sanding that. I got it close to the leading edge over here and left it at that. So what I'll do is I'll sand the whole front end properly, because it's still sticking too far out in the front. It's got to be cut back maybe 1/8 of an inch. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get this side done off camera, because I don't want to speed it up and then make a mistake, because mistakes are bad. And yeah, it's just because otherwise, if I get something glued together that's not supposed to be glued together, I don't want to have to cut it apart again. Okay, both sides are on. I'm showing you. Wax paper. If you're going to go ahead and glue something in next to something else that you don't want it to stick to, put wax paper down. When I went ahead and pretty much skinned the top of these things, everything is screwed into place, and this is firmly held between the two. Go ahead, glue it on, and this is ready to go ahead and do the final sand on. So let me go ahead and spend about, hopefully 10 minutes and get this thing fully sanded up, and I'll bring it back just so you can see what it's like when it's done. All right, I got my CG right, and the wingtip balance is good. I'm flying level. All right, it's done. The Subwing is complete, and as you can see, it's straight, just like it's supposed to be. What, the hands weren't all twisted up. So a little bit more, took a little more time than I thought it was going to. But I'm very, very happy with the way it came out. So I have not tried to put this on the plane yet, because the plane is not ready. All right, so let's just go ahead and call this a video, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm back down in the shop.